Here I am at Turning Point USA in Phoenix with Father Frank Pavone. Father, how are you doing
It's good
today?
to see you again. I'm doing great.
It is always good to see you.
Thank you.
I tell you, I know that you're always out there fighting for life
Yes.
with your organization, but I also know, because I'm going to ask you some questions on how life sometimes gets confused with the right for freedom.
Yes.
So we're going to go into that in just a minute, but before we do that, what brings you to Turning Point?
Well, I've had a long relationship with Turning Point, with Charlie, and with so many of the leaders that are here. So I wouldn't miss this. It's a great opportunity, just like we're doing now, to connect with old friends and new.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, coming up, I know here we are in the end of December, but coming up, there's an event in D.C. that you're
Yes,
very
there
passionate
is.
about.
The March for Life. It's going to be just 4 days after the inauguration, actually. I'll be there for the inauguration, of course. But on January 24th, people will be coming from around the country to stand up for the unborn children and their moms and their dads. And I'm privileged to lead a national prayer service that morning on the 24th at Constitution Hall. And we're going to honor... there have been a number of states this past election that had these abortion measures on their ballot. Okay. And it was for very extreme abortion policies that most Americans don't agree with. I mean, we're talking about healthy babies of healthy mothers in the 7th, 8th, and 9th month of pregnancy that they were trying to put into the constitutions of these states that they could be aborted. So we fought against those. We stopped them in Florida, South Dakota, and Nebraska, and some other states they passed. But in any case, we're going to honor Governor Ron DeSantis because he really stepped up to the plate to speak up not just for the babies, but for their moms and dads and for authentic health care. He got physicians together. They had press conferences. We're going to honor DeSantis. We're going to honor Kristi Noem of South Dakota.
I love it.
Jim Pillen of Nebraska. These three governors did a lot of work. But we're also going to honor the pro-life people, and I know that many of them are watching, from all the states over the last 3 years that have had these ballot measures. So nationalprayerservice.com is the website. Constitution Hall is a beautiful venue, and we're going to pray our hearts out, and then we're going to march for life on the streets of Washington.
I might have to travel to D.C. to see this.
Oh, we would welcome you. We welcome you.
An interesting thing that I'm always talking about freedom and liberty, and
that's
we're
right.
losing freedom.
Right.
And I'm going to walk a fine line here because while I'm pro-life,
yes.
I'm also pro-freedom.
Yes, me too. Me too.
Exactly. and what worries me sometimes is when that pendulum swings really far, we get those laws like we're getting in some of those extreme states where they're saying we can't agree with anything with life. We simply want our choice. And while I think that sometimes the extremes of freedom, get us to where we have laws like they passed in Michigan? Is that where the
Michigan, Ohio,
exactly.
Yeah.
And but how do we walk that fine line where where women can feel like they're not losing their right, but where the life, people who appreciate life like us can say we're still getting women to make good choices.
Let me paint a picture here. This abortion battle has been going on for decades in this country, right? So in 1973, we had Roe v. Wade. From then until now, it's been a divisive issue, but the American people have come around certain points of consensus. And when I say points of consensus, this has been through state legislation, federal legislation, state courts and federal courts, and the Supreme Court. And through all that work over 50 years plus, we've come to a certain consensus, like, for example, we shouldn't be aborting babies in the 7th, 8th, and 9th month of pregnancy. We shouldn't be using abortion as birth control. We should have clinic safety regulations in these abortion clinics. We should have parental involvement if the one getting an abortion is a minor. So these and many other, we shouldn't have taxpayers being forced to pay for somebody else's abortion. So the American people, by and large, agree with these points. What we've seen lately, we saw this from the Biden-Harris administration, we saw this in these state abortion amendments, they want to take away that consensus. They want to impose on us abortion without limits, and they want to take away the freedom of the people and the lawmakers to set policy on abortion consistent with these points of consensus. So really, we in the pro-life movement have been fighting for freedom. What we're saying is, look, the people of a state, they might want to have more permissive abortion. The people of a state might want to have more protection for the unborn. let the people work with their elected representatives and hammer out that policy. What these amendments would do, and like you said, Michigan, Ohio, California, Vermont, a number of other states, Colorado have passed these amendments, is they take away that freedom. So that even if the people, even if their lawmakers and their governor want to put some reasonable limits on abortion, they can't do that anymore. So it's like, where is freedom? I mean, we always have to be defending our rights. We always have to be vigilant, including women, their rights for proper health care. We're all in favor of that. And you defend those rights precisely through the political and legislative process. What we're saying is, let's keep that sovereignty in where it belongs, with the people, and not by some thing that's imposed from on high, like these terribly radical abortion amendments.
You know, I understand perfectly what you said, but I also believe, like you, that the Roe v. Wade turned the power of choice over to the states. And I always think that states' rights are paramount to federal rights. And I think that when you give states' rights, you know, the option to be able to make their own laws on abortion, it puts power back closer to the hands of the people.
Well, this was...
And exactly.
Yeah.
So, but is there a more succinct way that we can assure women that believe in the right to choose, that that's their freedom, that are worried about losing their freedoms with abortion laws, and at the same time, in that same succinct statement, give people that are pro-life the comfort of knowing that we're going to save babies' lives? There's a real succinct way to put it.
Abortion is not about freedom of choice. It's about people who feel they have no freedom and no choice. When we stand with these women and we say, here are your options, we're going to help you, that's when they experience the freedom that says yes to life. Because it's despair. You know, I've prayed in front of almost every abortion clinic in America. The people going to those doors are not going there because of freedom. They're going there because of despair. And when we stand there,
that's the right way to put it.
It's not us taking away their freedom. It's us giving them more freedom. It's saying, look, you don't have to do this. Most of the abortions, this is going to astonish some people. Most of the abortions in America are coerced abortions. Most of them. We've done the research. We've got Dr. David Reardon and others that have done the research. They're being forced by boyfriends. They're being forced by their parents. They're being forced by their employer. They're being forced by their doctor. Or they're being forced by circumstances.
Or they're being forced by the narratives that say, this is your right,
yes,
and you're giving up your right if you don't have an abortion.
If you don't have an abortion. And so what are they doing? They're going and submitting to that procedure, and meanwhile they're thinking to themselves, this is the worst day of my life. I don't want to do this. I don't believe in this. And that makes the pain that comes after abortion even more deep and even more painful. So what we say is, look, let's stop the coercion. Even if we didn't pass any laws against abortion, what if we try this? What if we said to the abortion clinics, when someone comes to you and they say they want this procedure, make sure they're not being forced. Make sure it really is their choice. You want to be in favor of the woman's choice. Make sure it is her choice and not the choice of some other person in her life. I think that's a good place to start.
That is actually a great translation on what's going on here that a lot of people don't realize. And to your point, I think that if more people really understood, both on the pro-life, on the far pro-life side and on the far pro-choice side, if more people understood these circumstances, and they understood that states' rights give them more power for their, however they believe, we'll say, and that if more people understand this, I think we start to create more people working together on life and helping women, because ultimately, that's my next question, my next direction is, how can we help more women so they can feel not as that desperation, they won't feel as victimized or as persuaded by the people that are trying to persuade them, rather. How can we empower women, help women more? That's my next question. How can we help women more so they know they're not alone in choosing life? Well,
a few things. I already mentioned there are certain policy steps we could take to screen for coercion. Secondly, empower them with information. You know, in many states, if you talk about state laws, state rights, there are informed consent laws. So she wants to get an abortion. Okay, hold on a second. Inform her what she's aborting. Show her the baby. Inform her what the alternatives are.
Right.
Give her a choice. And we can all participate in this empowerment of information. There's a new app I've been involved with developing called See Baby Grow. People can find it on the App Store. See Baby Grow. I tell you what, it's going to make people fall off their chairs. You can see the heart beating in a baby at only 4 weeks old. You can see a baby at 6 weeks from conception going like this, stretching and moving around. It's unbelievable. It's not ultrasound. It's direct video imagery of the unborn child. So why don't we empower, freedom comes also from knowledge, right? The more knowledge and the more power you have to choose. Okay, so empowering them with information. And here's the third piece of the puzzle. The pregnancy centers. So when I travel, or I've traveled to so many pregnancy centers around America, and I always speak for their national conferences, we help to train the people who every day are running thousands of pregnancy centers, and people need to know about them, that they exist. You go to pregnancycenters.org. You can find the pregnancy center nearest to you. Maybe people listening right now have a friend who feels that she has to have an abortion. You want to give her more power, more rights, more freedom? Tell her about the pregnancy center. Nobody's forcing anything on her. She goes, she consults with them, find out, what's the matter, what do you need, and they're very grateful for that help. Millions and millions of people are being helped, and the good news is that there are 4 times more pregnancy centers in America than abortion clinics.
This is
so we are providing the choice. We're the ones in favor of women's choice and women's rights.
2 more quick questions.
Yeah.
So you just now made me think of this. A lot of people have said, not a lot, but I've had a few people say, well, they believe in pro-choice because women, because Republicans, want to have the baby, but they don't want to support the baby. And you just now made the point that there's pregnancy centers that will show women how to take care of their baby, how to support their baby, and offer them assistance, when that baby's a newborn in the early years.
That's right.
But are there groups that they can, that is there a succession of groups, let's say?
Yes.
That says, hey, after your baby's a year old, 2 year old, maybe there's another group that says when your baby's in middle school, we have assistance.
Absolutely.
When your baby's in college, or high school, and then we're going to show you how to get your baby to college.
Yeah.
So women knows that a baby's a lifelong decision, but there's also groups and organizations that offer lifetime support.
Well, let me put it in this way. You choose the right word. There's a succession of groups because no one group can solve all the problems of the world, right? But I'm a Catholic. We have Catholic charities across the country, major programs for people of every age, families in every possible situation, and they are helping education and parenting and social services of all kinds. People can look up Catholic charities online and they'll find a plethora of services. But here's another point. There's a lot of anti-Republican narrative out there. Oh, you don't take care of the baby after birth. If you look at, let me give 2 state examples, Texas and Florida, right? They both have abortion bans, and people said, oh, these mean Republicans banning abortion. I want to challenge people to look at the wording of those laws because they provide tens of millions of dollars of help to women to find alternatives to abortion. So we're not just saying don't do an abortion. We're saying here's the help that's available as an alternative. And final point, there are firefighters out there, I'm sure, that are listening to us, emergency medical technicians. If you go into an emergency, a first responder goes into an emergency, and you save someone's life by taking them out of a burning building, do we hear people say to those firefighters or those first responders, so, what are you going to do for that person for the rest of their life? You only care about getting them out of the fire. It's like, are you kidding me? You saved their life. Everything that happens to them after that, they have you to thank.
I love this.
And that's how we feel about saving these babies in the womb. I can't solve everyone's problems for all their life, but you know what? I can save their life so that they have a life 2, 3, or 10 years from now.
I love this. So Father Frank Pavone, we've been talking about freedom, liberty.
Yeah.
And we talk about this. I love this. How to save babies, how to empower women, how to not make them feel as desperate, we'll say, or, like I said, even coerced. But my last question for you, where in America are we losing freedom?
Well, we're losing freedom with the Democrat policies. Unfortunately, they're going out of power now, both in Congress and in the White House. But we're losing freedom when they try to try to make federal mandates in education, when they try to teach our children about all this woke ideology, when they try to restrict our religious freedom. I had to go to the Supreme Court some years ago to defend my ministry, Priests for Life, because the Biden administration was trying to make us pay for abortion in our health care insurance. Right. This is a limitation on freedom, and we see it across the board with this Democrat Party. But thank God for this election, because this election was a choice between good and evil, between common sense and insanity. It was a choice between freedom and tyranny, and the American people chose good. They chose common sense. They chose freedom. And I'm looking forward to, like President Trump says, a golden age for America. I don't think that's an exaggeration.
I love this. Father Frank Pavone, you are amazing.
God bless you. Yes.
And I'm going to ask the audience, please, to share this interview with other people so you can not only see how amazing Father Frank Pavone is and the great information that he has, but take heed to what he's saying. Yeah. When the Democrat policies force us to choose only the laws that they agree with, and even some of those being abortion laws that make you think that those laws are right, it actually takes away a plethora of other freedoms. So watch your freedoms closely, watch the narratives closely, and you'll see your narratives being saved or lost as you choose. And you can choose to share this video and protect freedom in other ways. Thank you so much.